Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we are going to be rebuilding the Bing carburetor off the BMW R100S. These are the 40mm variety, and so I've actually already rebuilt the one on the left side. So today we'll basically remove the carburetor from the right side, take it apart, clean it up, and then basically add some new O-rings and seals and check to make sure everything's good. The reason behind the rebuild is when I got the bike, it looks like there must be an issue with a float valve because once turned off, there was a pretty serious reek of gasoline for quite a while until it kind of cleared up. So anyway, also this bike's been sitting around for a while. When I took apart the first carburetor, quite frankly, most of the O-rings were shot. They were either cracked or they were hard as plastic. So will not be a bad thing to do. So let's get going. Awesome. Okay, so first steps will be to remove the tube that goes through the airbox. So kind of get it out of the way. I've already kind of loosened them up. That was back from when I was going to take both hoses off from the airbox. So we should be ready to start kind of squiggling this thing around. It was not the easiest thing in the world to get this thing to come off. So it was actually quite difficult, but we'll give it a whirl. So maybe this one might be easier, maybe not. It's a question of really wiggling it around. So actually, you know what? I forgot I undid these, but I don't think I undid this one over here. So we will get this nice and loose so we can get this carburetor off. And then we will have to disconnect the choke cable and the throttle cable. So I already have an issue with the throttle cable on the left side. One of the threads was coming apart, so it looks like it's new throttle cable time for it. Then we'll have to see if it's going to be new throttle cable time on this side. I will take a look at it and see what kind of condition they're in. So, okay. So now that everything's loose, our next trick will be to try to get this one to come off. And like I said, it was quite the chore on the other one. And you just really got to go for it, I guess. There it goes. Well, it was a lot easier, believe it or not, this time around than last time. Okay, cool. So next steps. You kind of got to spin this thing around, undo the choke cable and the throttle cable, and then we'll also have to undo the fuel line. So we'll grab some tools and get right at it. So first things first is going to be most likely to disconnect the fuel line. Quite frankly, it's just as easy to cut it off at this point in time. And this fuel line is toast. So I'm just going to put a bit of a slit that will allow us to get that off a little easier. And that way we can pry it off and not deal with trying to get the silly thing to basically come off. So that should do it. That's it. This bike definitely needs new fuel hoses, that's for sure. So I would say that would do it, but looks like it's not 100%. There it goes. Now that it's ripped, it surely should come off. So, okay, so the next part is we got to get rid of at least undo the choke, and then we need to undo the throttle cable. So we need to get it to the point where we can kind of get this done. I'm just going to basically spin this around so I can pull this out. Part of my hand. Okay, so that one's undone. So we can let that go. And then this one, we will just undo this real quick. So we can also let her go at the same time. So it looks like that one is not right. This is 7. Oh, it is. Hey. There it goes. Not a big fan. I would much rather have the cables with a little lead bowl at the end on this variety. This definitely not the best way to do things, that's for sure. There we go. So we're disconnected. So now time to take it to the bench and take it apart. Awesome. Good deal. So we're going to start taking the carburetor apart. It's got to be pretty complete, this assembly. Unfortunately, there's all kinds of O-rings and all kinds of fun places that have to be replaced. So we'll start by taking the top of it off. And some of this is easier said than done, mainly because it's been a while. Nope, that's not liking it. So we'll have to go a different route with that. So, okay, so I cheated a little bit. Had my wife help me out basically to loosen these two screws right here. They were on pretty hard, so I did not want to strip them. So we just grabbed a crescent wrench on the screwdriver and basically helped pop them. So anyhow, so that's good. Again, I don't particularly want to strip any screw heads. Going ahead and drilling screws out, it's not my favorite thing to do. Quite frankly, I've never been super successful at getting it done nicely anyway. So, okay, so with that, we can basically take the head off the carb. And so we've got that, we'll put it in our little bin. We'll put the spring in our bin. The diaphragm looks actually halfway decent, but I'm gonna replace it anyway since I get a new one in the kit. So we'll take this out first. Be really careful with the needle, and then we will go ahead and okay, put that in the bucket. Good. We are also going to take apart the choke. So, as a matter of fact, what I might do is I may, just to make my life a little easier, undo that real quick. Unfortunately, there are O-rings everywhere on this carburetor, and so you can't just partially take it apart. You've got to take it apart all the way, it seems, which is unfortunate. So let's put the little dudes over here. We will unscrew this. Luckily, it's not super tight. There's the gasket, which we will not be needing. Our friend here pops out. And if you look inside, there is an O-ring, and that O-ring has to be replaced. So we'll put that back in here. Everything is going to go into the parts cleaner. The other super unfortunate thing is that you actually have to take the butterfly valve out. And I say it's super unfortunate because these things are not exactly easy to do. It's a good opportunity to really make a mess, is what I noticed. But there's also an O-ring that sits right in here. That when I took the other one apart, it's like, ooh, yes, glad I did that, because it was definitely toast. So, and that would have been a massive air leak. So we're going to do our best here to try and figure out how to do this without basically breaking anything. So incredibly, I was able to at least crack these two screws so we can screw them out. As I said before, on the other carburetor, boy, I almost thought I'd had it there for a second, where these screws were not coming out, and one was looking like it was going to strip. So that would have been bad. So we'll take this out. So normally I would never take this out on a regular carburetor, but when I got the rebuild kit, there was an O-ring for it. And I said, when I finally took this thing out, I'm like, oh my, I mean, the O-ring was toast. So I would, not a good step to skip, that's for sure. So, and the good news is this one actually came out quite nicely, so, which is good. So we will open up and the whole thing just grabs and slides out. There it goes. Okay, we'll get that kind of cleaned up also. And then this whole mess comes apart. So you can slide the thing out. I believe it's also, this is what, 11 millimeters seems to be a very popular size. Then this assembly has to come off also. That comes off. Then this just pulls out. And here's that O-ring I was telling you about. This one does not quite look as bad as the other one did. So that's that. Then last but not least, we got to get all this fun stuff out of here. So we'll see how it goes. This has to kind of pop out. So I actually just basically use a screwdriver over here just to kind of pry it a little bit. Yeah, I've never seen a carburetor that actually had a retaining clip on it. Everything I always mess with will have screws and all other good stuff that hold the float ball in place, but this one does not. So this just comes right off. It's good. That looks kind of yuck in there, so we'll give it, make sure it gets a good cleaning. So we will pop the gasket out, maybe. Oh boy, that gasket is pretty solid and broken, so it looks like it was time for a new one regardless. So that guy's toast. So next up is taking all the jets out. So what I like to do normally when I'm rebuilding a carb, especially on the pilot jet, boy, a little grimy here, especially on the pilot jet, I want to kind of figure out where it was left before. Just have a good starting point. So I like to basically make a mark on the side here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to screw it in first. So there's half, 1, 1.5, 2, and a bit. So, which actually is the exact same as the other side. So now that we've got that kind of figured, I'll take this whole thing out. And basically there is the pilot screw. It too has an O-ring. And then down in here, if you turn this guy around, there's a spring that also goes in there. Kind of interesting on this. Normally when I get a carb rebuild kit, I have always seen that they've come with a new pilot screw, but not this one, so go figure. And man, this thing is definitely a lot more corroded. I mean, the other side, this basically was nice and shiny, and this is not looking that great, so go figure. Okay, so we got to get the jet out here, so we will very carefully, oh, it's pretty loose. And then there's a washer. And then that, I believe, is 10 millimeter. Maybe, okay, there it goes. And there is a O-ring on this also. You can tell right there. So I popped the jet so we can now unscrew it out. So it makes me wonder, 'cause I'm pretty certain this is the side that was leaking gasoline. And I wonder if maybe that's why there's so much corrosion here. I mean, the other side, when I took it apart, was pretty clean, and this is not looking that great. So there's the jet. And then basically what we're going to do next is we're going to pop this out. So there's actually a knurled side and a non-knurled side, and I believe this is the knurled side, so it's going to come out this way. I've been having some fun experiences with carburetors in general. Just rebuilt the SU carburetor in my wife's MG GT, and so I have a spare needle actually. So I'm going to use a needle here to use it as kind of a drift pen. Okay, so I had to take it back to the bench to pound on it for a little bit. I was able to get, I do have a set of drift pens that are somewhat small, so that seemed to have done the trick. Okay, so that takes that out. That takes the floats out. And that also takes our friend, the needle and seat. So we have to be real careful. That little clippy dude that's on there does not come with the rebuild kit, so I can't lose it. And so that's that for the carburetor. I believe that's as disassembled as it gets. So next step is we're going to toss this into the parts cleaner, give it a bit of a bath, and then we'll see how it goes. So if you've watched any of my other videos, I do have an ultrasonic cleaner that does a pretty darn good job, so I think we'll give it a whirl in there first. So, okay, awesome, good deal. So all the parts have been cleaned, so now it is time to start getting the whole thing reassembled. Step one is going to be to put all these little O-rings back together again. When I did the other carburetor, I found out that is easier said than done. And the reason I mentioned that is because these O-rings take a fair amount of effort to actually get them to where they belong. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of stretching that has to occur. So it's I had definitely had fun in a couple of them, to say the least. So we'll just start with the big ones first. I do have my little pick tools over here, which actually work very well. So we'll grab one of these little pick tools to help me to get some of the old O-rings off. In some cases, the old O-ring is pretty much already toast. So we can, like for example, this one here, it's already broken. So it was one of those, thank goodness we decided to open this up and replace it. So I think I'm gonna roll this one on from this side, mainly that way I don't get caught in this lip here. So, but I said some of these are easier than others for sure. When it comes down to, for example, like the pilot screw, holy cow, on the other carburetor, it took like almost an act of God to get this silly thing back on there. It's like, geesh, that was not much fun at all. So I'm gonna go start with easy and then go to difficult. So I'll take this seal off. He's still left in it, but again, pretty well toast. We'll roll this guy on here. So that one's on, we're good. So we're good with this one here. So we got the one that's off the choke. So this one we'll take off and put a new one on, easier. Oh yeah, that way you don't have to manhandle. Okay, so that was that. We'll roll this one on here. Okay, so that's on there too. We've got the jet over here. Okay, that's toast. On that one also. We'll basically work our way this way. So there it goes. So that one's that. Now for the fun one. I had a heck of a time on the other carb putting this one on. This is definitely toast. Look at that. It didn't last very long at all. It was easy. Now putting this one on was basically a large pain in the dirty air, as the saying goes. So we'll try it this direction, although quite frankly, last time this is not the way it went on. Okay, so after much fiddling, I got that silly thing on here. So anyhow, okay, so what we're going to do first is, I think we're gonna assemble the bottom of the carburetor first. So based off of that, we have a few things going on. So we have our pilot screw that we can put back in now. So it's gonna find us the spring, which is right here. So we can go ahead and get the pilot screw put in. And we'll seat that all the way in. And actually, I did put just a little drop of oil on there just to, so that the, what's we'll call it, O-ring was able to slide in halfway decently. Okay, so that's all the way in. So there should be, the mark was over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 full turns. So that's that. Okay. Then we have our main jet. So we have this little dude goes in first, followed by, ooh, shoot, I'm missing a piece. Yep, I am. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I found my missing part, which is a good thing. So anyhow, this basically goes in here. That goes in here. So that couples like that. So we'll go ahead and put this in first. Make sure it's sticking out. Yep, it's sticking out, so that's good. Add some oil just to help that O-ring kind of go in there and not get all bound up. So he goes in here. And just kind of hand tight. Next we have the washer and then the jet that goes over the top of it. We will get our other jet in here. And again, I'm gonna just have just a wee bit of oil. The tip of the screwdriver was dipped in, so to make life a little bit easier. So that dude goes in there. See, it's nice and tight. Okie doke, so for our next fun object here is we are going to put the new valve in, and we'll put in the floats at the same time. So I did salvage the little clip from the other valve. Again, I said earlier, I was really surprised that the rebuild kit does not actually come with a new valve. I had to actually purchase it separately, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, which, you know, in what universe would you not replace this? Okay, so we've got the little clippy dude on there, which is good because it's kind of important. So let's see, I'm not sure you'll be able to see that level of detail. Then we have the float poles that the little clippy dude goes on. It might be easier said than done, really, because everything is just so freaking small. Okay, so that's kind of hanging there temporarily. Then this goes on here, right there. We go from left to right with the knurly part on the left-hand side. That's the way it came out. Look for the hole. this kind of lined up. Okay, so that has gone all the way through there. Well, it's just a question of getting it to go through the other side, through the other hole. So right now it's not even registering at the side. So it looks like there might be a little. Okay, so it looks like we still actually have to go through here. So. So look at that is in the, we'll kind of give it a little bit of a tap. See if it'll actually go in. Alrighty, we'll get a little small mallet here to tap that in real quick. There it goes. Okay, so it looks like we got that kind of going. And it's on there pretty good. Okay, sweet. Now the whole, I say sweet, but boy, good news, bad news. These floats are a little sticky. So I don't know if it got a little, there it goes. Okay, so no small pair of pliers are going to do this trick, so I basically decided to take the whole thing off and do it again. We'll get it back on here. I said, boy, it's just such a fine little clip. It's, you know, I'm having a hard enough time just seeing it. Okay, so that's on right there. So if we put this on in here, okie doke. So this time this thing actually went in. Looks like I'm not even have to bash it this time around, which is freaking awesome. So I'm just gonna push it in. Okay, so that's that. For setting the floats, it's basically level. And it actually looks like it might be a little on the high side. So we may have to just ever so slightly tweak this. That actually looks pretty darn good. Okay, yeah, I like it. Okay, so we got the floats, we got this, we got the two jets in, we got the pilot screws in, so we basically need to get our new gasket. So put him down in there. So basically press them in. So that's good, we've got that in there. And I think just to double, I think that's pretty much it for this particular program. We have the float bowl itself. Again, I think tight, on, checked. Okay, so we should be able to put this back on. We'll grab this and snap it back into place. Okay, so that's on. So next, we're going to look at the choke. So here's the choke. We have some alignment marks both in there and on this back side over here. So these basically point in those direction. So it goes this way. So basically what it is this is going all the way down. We'll pop it in. There it goes. So that's that. We have our friend over here, who also faces forward. We have a washer. We have our screw. We'll tighten that up. Our handy dandy 11mm socket. We have our gasket. Goes on top there. Then we have supposedly 4 screws that are identical. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. So for our next trick, we will get the valve body in with the valve flap or the throttle body plate, whatever we want to call it. I'm going to again put a little lubrication on the O-ring, just allow it to slide in there. So this basically goes in through here. And that's it. So as this thing goes, voila. And then we then have our good friend over here that holds this whole thing in place. So, and and last but not least, we have this little fun assembly, which is for the spring. And I got to remember exactly how, well, so this obviously does one of these numbers. The spring goes in here. Actually, hang tight. I'm going to actually check the other carb. So. Okay, so I have the other carburetor. I just could not quite remember how this whole this assembly went. So basically, what it is like that points down, and then the spring goes in here. Is what the deal is. So, and so this is this over here, which is the reverse. So this spring is going to go in here like this. So, okay, that goes in here, that goes there. This goes in on here. So awesome. Okay, and then we have another washer and a nut that goes on there. So we got the nut. So before, grab our, oops, handy dandy. Of course, I don't have it 100% correct. And the reason I say that is because our good friend over here you gotta move it up a little bit. There. Now it's on there correctly. I had the stop was on the wrong side of the screw, so not good. Okay. Now that the stop's on the right side of the screw, there's a little piece of crud there. Now we can tighten it up. So again, 11mm wrench. Sweet. Okay. Okay, so that's on there now the way it's supposed to. Here's the mirror image. So all is good in that department for everything really. Okie doke, so we'll put that aside. We don't need it for the time being. So next steps is to put our friend in over here. This has got a guide pin here. This goes on top. And so the trick to this is to get it to, when you put it in, to make sure it's in there evenly with everything else. What I mean by that is that you've got to make sure that when you put it in, that you're in equal opportunity with regards to, it's actually centered in there. All the other fun, happy stuff. So, because it takes a little bit of effort to get this thing to actually, let's just say it does not auto center itself. So you can tell right now that's really not the case. So the trick is to try to get it to where it so that kind of looks good. So what I'm going to do temporarily, I'm going to put some screws in there, but basically what you almost got to do is you actually got to like take it up into the light and see how it's covering the hole. So just to make sure that the plate is actually where it's supposed to be and you don't have any weird air leak. So I will do that real quick. So I'm actually going to stare into the camera here. It actually looks pretty good. So I think that's pretty good as it is. So we've got our little screws. And now last but not least, we got to get the top part put together again. So that's step one, is we have the slider here. And so the diaphragm actually has a little dent right here that goes into this dent right over here. So we can at least assemble it this way here real quick. Okie doke, so that's that. So that works. Then next steps is to get our friend in here. And again, there's another tab here. There's another tab over here. So this has to go in like this. So we'll find our tab. The tab is here. So which is right in there. Okay, so this goes to the back where the cables are. There's a big giant spring that goes in here. Let's not forget it. This closes over here. And definitely want to make sure that we don't pinch anything. And when this thing closes, we want to make sure that it fully closes all the way around and we don't have any rubber showing, which looks like to be the case. So 2 more screws. Slightly bigger screwdriver to do the honors. That way, I don't strip anything. I'd be stripping it right now because if I did, I'd be putting a lot of extra force in. On. And that concludes the reassembly of the carburetor. So I'm going to wait to actually physically reinstall it on the bike. I had to order new throttle cables. The throttle cables did not look super great. One side actually looked okay, so we'll check it out real quick. As you can see over here, the wire is coming apart on the throttle cable, so I decided to order just 2 new ones, just to be on the safe side. That would be not, the throttle cable on this side actually did not look as bad, but it does not look, oops, hold on. Yeah, it does not look as bad, but it does not look really great either. So I figured, you know, it might be a good replacement at this point in time. Good deal. Well, so that kind of concludes this video. Hope you enjoyed it. So we will catch you next time, where we will most likely be putting the carburetors back on. And a few other things. We do have, as you can see, the front wheel is off. I'm doing my favorite thing, which is mounting new tires on rims. Every time I do it, I wonder why I just don't pay somebody the money to do it, because it's not that much fun. So, but it's all good. Anyway, bye-bye for now, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. If you like this video, hit subscribe and give us a big like down below. Thanks for watching.